Hey.
Hey, I know. You're like, oh God, I wish it was over already. That intro is too damn long, right?
Yeah. We can shorten it up.
I know you can do that for me, but I love it. I just
Oh.
love it. Yeah,
Mhm.
I do. I love what you guys did, you and Christopher, with that. It was really cool.
I do like it, yeah.
Yeah, it was a good, a, 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 just a good project that just came out of nowhere. Whoa. So, hello, everybody. Happy Saturday. And if you're on the other
And
side of the
Sunday.
world, Sunday. Right?
Mhm.
Happy weekend, I should say. Happy weekend. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, we are getting towards the end of this book,
This
chapter
is
9.
the penultimate chapter.
Ah, I got to be honest with you.
Mhm.
Like, I was all with the other chapters, but the last two, you're torturing me, dude. Like, now I
I
see
think
the
we're
evil.
torturing each other.
I see the evil plan you had all along. Now it's all coming.
Yes. Break the bear. Break the bear.
He's trying to break me, people. This was there's a lot. There's a lot to unpack here. But hmm, uh you found it challenging also?
Oh yes, of course.
Mm.
I'm finding all of these quite challenging.
Mm. Uh there are lessons. There are lessons. I found a lot of really useful information in it, a lot of motivation, a lot
Mm.
of good ideas, a lot of new ways to look at things, you know. But
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think that like i- to be honest, like the book, it is purely opinion. Like the entire book, there's nothing scientific about it.
Mhm.
But the things that are being expressed and sort of put forward are, I wouldn't say common sense, but they're sort of commonly accepted things, I guess, truths. I don't want to say something. I don't want to say something as strong as truths, but they're just sort of we understand it, and irrespective of whether or not it is scientifically backed or just opinion,
Mm-hmm.
it's the mindset that's more important. The
Yeah.
actual mindset
Mm-hmm.
of what you take away from it, from
Right.
like all of the chapters.
Basically, because when Robert Greene met 50 Cent, his life story and what, first of all, he had met a extremely accomplished man, and he was impressed. He was like, how did you get there from where you started? And
Mm,
so it's really 50 Cent's story and like his game plan. And when we're bringing it out here, we're trying to apply it in a broader sense. I would never recommend doing some of the things that 50 actually did.
no.
However, the mindset that he had in doing them, I would. Does that make any sense? Like,
Yeah.
not
Yeah, that's
always
mm,
not always the action he took, but the fact that he took action towards the goal in some manner, yes, I would. You know, the necessary need, the necessary processes that have to happen for anyone to be successful. And what this does, this book, is actually turn the idea of success, the idea of accomplishing success, on its head. It
mm,
We very often, and this is a generalized statement, I realize, so don't come from a YouTube, like, I get it. It's generalized. We often think that it's luck. You need a certain parameter of things to fall into place to get anywhere in
oh,
this world,
absolutely.
especially now in 2025. We think it's luck. We think it's what family you were born into, that you
Mhm.
have a lot of money, that you have all this predestined opportunity.
Oh,
It's not.
absolutely.
There is a way to carve all that out for yourself if you want it. It's not easy.
Oh,
Nobody's here and say, well, if you do X, Y, and Z, you're guaranteed success. That's a
I
fallacy. It's not
yeah, I
true. Yeah.
I think, I think even if it is luck, luck is like would be 1% of your success. I don't like yeah, there are some people out there that do genuinely get really lucky, um, but to actually get to a successful position, luck is people put too much weight on it being luck. It takes it. It takes the problem is that if you put it down to luck, it takes away a lot of your own autonomy. And
Hmm.
autonomy is the thing that will get you somewhere, wherever you want to go. As long as
Exactly.
you're as long as you accept that everything that happens is something that you had control over autonomously without it being some sort of freak
Hmm.
force of nature,
Hmm.
then that's going to get you much further than thinking that luck is going to be the deciding factor.
Exactly. In When you look at the steps, like, even, accepting the reality of situations, the realism, okay, um, conquering the fear to move forward, or the fear of failure, the fear of it not working out, just fear in general of judgment and all of that other stuff. Really big step. It's all about gaining your power to actually accomplish anything. Uh, One of the steps is like, if luck does present itself, or you get, a situation does occur, you have to be prepared by being able to grasp opportunity and be able to take that step and not care what anybody says about it. And that's what this is all about: preparing yourself for the layout of the plan, for the things that will happen, while
I,
moving forward to try to accomplish them. you know
um,
um yeah.
I I actually have a really good way of thinking about success. Okay, so let's see. Okay, what are the chances? Does anyone here know the chances of winning the lottery? What are the
God,
chances of winning the lottery?
it is astronomically small, like one in like billions. But everybody plays anyway. Yeah.
What if I told you that the chances of winning the lottery are actually 100%?
What?
What if I told you the chances of winning the lottery are 100%?
I'd
There is
ask
a
you, what
100% chance of winning the lottery.
did you? Well, of course, there's always a chance for anything.
Nope, there's a 100% chance of winning the lottery.
Okay, now I'm going to say, did you sleep? Did you like? Are you overindulged? Did you just stay up all night, like drinking and smoking or something? Like what? What? What kind of wordplay game are you doing on me right now? What's this? 100%, huh?
Yep, there is a 100% chance of winning the lottery because it is won pretty much every single week it has ever come out by someone.
But it's not 100% that you're going to be that someone.
I never said it was you.
See, this is wordplay. Like, you're messing with me now. I knew it. All right, let's get to the program. Like,
Success
that's
is,
it. Go
but
ahead.
it's the mindset that comes with it. Success is 100% guaranteed because it happens
Okay,
all the time. To
let me
to
let me. I
but
get what you're saying, but let me translate that for the rational people out there like
Mhm,
myself. What he actually means is, why not you? That's what he means. He means somebody's going to win every week. And you translate that, why not you? There's always going
mhm,
to be a winner. Why can't it be you? Right? Okay.
yep.
All right. Because, man, that you're going to start a riot talking like that. Like, you need to stop. Like,
But it's true. And it's so to be fair, like to keep it in context, as I
this is
said, it's a
that.
100% yeah,
Yeah.
100% chance that someone will win.
Right.
Exactly.
And that's how I
Um,
translate that to, for the purpose of this chapter. Why can't it be you? Like, why not you? Get ready, because it could be you. Like, let's get ready. Like, just believe.
yeah,
Yeah.
but it's not like blindly expecting yourself to win because that's not
Hmm.
that's just not something you can do.
No, I
It's the
get it.
mindset of actually understanding that it is that people do succeed. People take the lottery. The lottery is probably not a great example. Let's say someone who becomes a great business mogul.
Hmm.
Um, there is 100% chance that someone is going to become a great business mogul from any walk of life, from the lowest of lows where like you're literally living in desolate conditions. You probably not even you probably don't even have a paycheck.
Hmm.
um but people have come from just that position to succeed, and the same goes the other way. You could come from the most well known, like old money. Success is basically in a right. You you just this the idea of failure is just not within your family, and you
Hmm.
could absolutely fail.
Right.
You could absolutely fall into destitute.
Mm. I I also think it's really important to stress in the concept of the whole book. The main thing was in regaining your power, claiming your power for yourself
Mhm.
over over yourself, situations, others, your personal power. Um, It's very important in this world. It prepares you for so many things. But the idea and the concept of success is subjective. It's something different to everybody. Success
Absolutely.
doesn't have to mean a great job. Success doesn't have to mean the best in your field. Success does not have to mean number one in any category whatsoever. Success is your interpretation of it, like your goal. Success is achievement, whatever achievement you want to make, whatever you
Hmm.
subscribe for yourself as a goal. If it is like reducing your grocery bill by $50 by shopping sales a week, that's success. Okay. I
Hmm.
don't mean to make light of it, but I do get a little like when people keep referring to success as some time of megala achievement, like mountain climbing or skydiving. You know what I mean? It's personal. It's for you. You know, this whole book is about whatever it is that means success to you, whatever it is that's holding you back from accomplishing what you want to accomplish in life. Wherever you are in it, it is about giving you a different look at how you can achieve that by moving through some processes and getting a good picture. Like, it is what it is, the reality of the situation. Being willing to take the judgment for being opportunistic, that grasping an opportunity is just grasping an opportunity. It's not a permanent label on a person. Okay.
As
But being willing to see it as an opportunity for what you want to accomplish, and being willing to go for it, being aggressive when you need to be aggressive, learning to read the room, you know being aware of everything around you, taking in like total situations and making plans. And now in this chapter, believing in yourself,
as
taking a
well
yeah,
as well as holding yourself responsible for your own successes and your own failures.
exactly. Exactly. Because it just gets disheartening when people say, well, why would I wouldn't listen to that? Like, I'm not a business mogul. I'm not going to be a rapper. I'm not going to be, an artist, a famous artist and sell $1 million pictures or whatever. And it's like, yeah, like me either. But there's something in this book for everybody, for whatever you want to do. I have found that it is really helped me just focus on my hobby to make it more enjoyable. Like,
Hmm.
some of the things in this book have helped me silence the noise, like, seriously. And I've found it beneficial. But this chapter is difficult, and we better get to it, because otherwise they're gonna wonder why they're all here.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, all right. So this is
Okay.
chapter 9. All right. Get it up there. All right. Push beyond your limits. Self-belief. Your sense of who you are your sense of who you are will determine your actions and what you end up getting in life. If you see your reach as limited, that you are mostly helpless in the face of so many difficulties, that is the best way to keep your ambitions low. Then you will receive the little that you expect. Knowing this dynamic, you got to train yourself for the opposite. Ask for more, aim higher, and believe that you are destined for something great. Your sense of self worth comes from you alone, never the opinion of others. With a rising confidence in your abilities, you will take risks that will increase your chances of success. People follow those who know where they are going. So cultivate an air of certainty and boldness. The hustler's ambition. Let me point out to you that freedom is not something that anybody can be given. Freedom is something people take, and people are as free as they want to be. James Baldwin. And then, whoops. Oh, sorry. I dropped something on the keyboard. And so then it's up to you to read the story.
Okay.
Tell them what all of that actually means by example.
So, the story goes, Curtis Jackson's mother, Sabrina, had one powerful ambition in her life: to somehow make enough money to move her and her son far away from the hood. She had had Curtis when she was 15, and the only reasonable outlet at that age for making any good money was dealing drugs. It was a particularly dangerous life for a female hustler, and so she built up an intimidating presence to protect herself. She was tougher and more fearless than many of the male dealers. Her only soft spot was her son. She wanted a different fate for him than hustling. To shelter him from the life she led, she had him stay with her parents in Southside Queens. As often as possible, she would show up with presents for her boy and to keep an eye on him. Someday soon, she would move to a better place. As part of a drug beef, Sabrina was murdered at the age of 23, and from that moment on, it looked like Curtis's fate in this world had been sealed. He was now essentially alone. No parents or real mentor to give him a sense of direction. It seemed almost certain that the following scenario would play itself out. He would drift towards a life on the streets. To prove his toughness, he would eventually have to resort to violence and crime. He would find his way into the prison system, and he would probably return for several stints. His life would basically be confined to this neighborhood, and as he got older, he could turn to drugs or alcohol to see him through, or at best a series of menial jobs. All of the statistics on parentless children growing up in such environments pointed towards this limited and bleak future. And yet, in his mind, something much different was taking shape. With his mother gone, he spent more and more time alone and began to indulge himself in fantasies that carried him far beyond his neighborhood. He saw himself as a leader of some sort, perhaps in a business or in war. He visualized in great detail the places where he would live, the cars he would drive, the outside world he would someday explore. It was a life of freedom and possibility, but these were not mere fantasies. They were real. They were destined to happen. He could see them clearly. Most important, he felt that his mother was looking after him. Her energy and ambition were inside him now. Oddly enough, he would follow in her footsteps with the same plan: to hustle and get out of the game. To avoid her fate, he forged an intense belief that nothing could stop him. Not a gunshot, the schemes of other hustlers, or the police. The streets would not confine him. In May 2000, Curtis, now known as 50 Cent, somehow survived 9 bullets that a hired hit assassin had pumped into his body. The timing of the attack had been particularly poignant. After years of hustling on the streets and in music, his first album had been about to come out. But then, in the aftermath of the shooting, Columbia Records canceled the album and dropped him from the label. He would have to start all over. In the months to come, as he lay in bed recovering from his wounds, he began to reconstruct himself mentally. Much as he had done before after the murder of his mother, he saw in his mind, in even fresher detail than ever, the path he would now have to take. He would conquer the rap world with a mixtape campaign, the likes of which no one had ever seen before. It would come from his It would come from his intense energy, his persistence, and even tougher sound as he would the even tougher sound he would create, and the image he would now project of an indestructible gangster. And the image he would now project of an indestructible gangster.
Mhm.
Within a year of the shooting, he was on his way to making his vision a reality. His first songs hit the streets and created a sensation. As he progressed on this path, however, he saw one very large impediment still blocking his path. The assassins were looking to finish the job, and they could show up at any moment. 50 was forced to keep a low profile and stay on the run. But this feeling of being hunted was intolerable. He would not live this way, and so he decided that what he needed was a group of tight-knitted disciples who would help protect him and overcome his sense of isolation. To make this a reality, he told his closest friends to convene a meeting in his grandparents' house in Southside, Queens. They were to invite his most fervent fans in the neighborhood, the young men whom they knew to be loyal and dependable, and they should all bring guns to help secure the streets before 50 showed up. When 50 finally entered the living room of his grandparents' house the day of the meeting, he could feel the energy and excitement. The space was filled with over 20 young men, all ready to do his bidding. He began by painting for them his perceived vision of the future. His music was now hot, but it was going to get a lot hotter. Within 2 more years, he was certain to land a major record deal. In his head, he already could hear the songs for his first record, visualize the cover and overall concept. It was to be the story of his life. The record, he assured them, would be an astronomical success because he had figured out a kind of formula for how to make and market hit songs. He was not the usual rap star, he explained. He was not in it for the bling or the attention, but for the power. He would take the money from the record sales to establish his own business. This was destiny. Everything in his life was meant to happen as it did, including the assassination attempt, including this very meeting that afternoon. He was going to forge a business empire, and he wanted to take all of them with him. Whatever any of them wanted, he would provide, as long as they proved themselves dependable and shared his sense of purpose. They could be rappers on the record label he would establish, or road managers for his tour, or they could go to college and get a degree. He would pay for it all. You are like my pack of wolves, he explained, but none of this will happen if the alpha wolf is killed. What he asked for was their help in providing security, in keeping him in touch with what was happening on the streets, and in doing some of the legwork for the promotion and distribution of his mixtapes. He needed followers, and he had chosen them. Almost all of them agreed to the proposal, and over the years to come, many of them stayed on to gain important positions within his expanding empire. And if they ever stopped to think about it, it was uncanny how close the future had come to resemble the picture he had painted so many years before. By 2007, after the tremendous success of his first 2 records, 50 began to sense a problem looming on the horizon. He had created an image for the public, a 50 myth that centered on his tough, menacing presence and his indestructibility. This was projected in his videos and interviews and the photos of him with his glare and tattoos. Most of it was real, but it was all heightened for dramatic effect. This image had brought him a great deal of attention, but it was turning into an elaborate trap To prove fans that he was still the same 50, he would have to keep upping the ante, engaging in more and more outrageous antics. He could not afford to seem like he was going soft, but it was not real to him anymore. He had moved on to a different life, and to stay rooted in this past image would prove to be the ultimate limit to his freedom.
Mm.
He'd be trapped in the past and the prisoner of the very image he had created. It would all grow stale and his popularity would wane. In each phase of his life, he had found himself challenged by some seemingly insurmountable obstacle, surviving on the streets without parents to guide him, keeping him away from the violence and time in prison, eluding the assassins on his heels, etc. If at any moment he had doubted himself or accepted the normal limits to his mobility, he would be dead or powerless, which was as good as dead in his mind. What had saved him in each case was the intensity of his ambition and self-belief. Now, now was not the time to get complacent or have doubts about the future. He would have to transform himself again. He would have his signature tattoos removed. Perhaps he would also change his name again. He would carry he would create a new image and myth to fit this period of his life. Part business mogul, part power broker, slowly withdrawing from the public eye and flexing his muscles behind the scenes. This would surprise the public, keep him a step ahead of their expectations, and remove yet another barrier to his freedom. Reinventing himself in this way would be the ultimate reversal of the fate that seemed to await him after the death of his mother.
Mm. So that, again, it's such a inspiration to see like how he just keeps pulling himself up and moving forward.
Oh, absolutely.
Here
It's
comes the real process. Like, he's already changed. He's a music mogul now, right? He's in there, and then he
mm-hmm.
realizes this isn't going to work forever. Like, I can't
Yep.
just stay like that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so in focusing on that, the next part goes into just 50 is 50. Like, who is 50? Like, we're
Mm-hmm.
not born with our personality and ego. Like, we're not born with our perceptions of ourselves. It all comes as we grow and as we learn and what we're exposed to. And
Mm-hmm.
basically, what we're exposed to is all the voices around us, our parents saying, things like, you do this and you do that, or you're shy, or you're this, or they use the example of being told you're too quiet or too shy when you're younger, and like, is that actually a personality trait, or is that just something that happens in the moment? But it becomes a personality trait because it gets adopted and it gets something you believe because people are telling you, in
Especially as a child,
it's,
you
yeah,
are so much more
it's
impressionable.
yes, we're susceptible to all of these. If they tell you you're too bold, for me, they always said, like, you're just too forward, this, that, or the other thing. And maybe you are, skittish, shy, bold, whatever. But as a child, you pay close attention to what anybody says about you. It molds your behavior, because you use it, it appears to you that it is a way to get the attention and the love and the approval that as a child, as we're growing, that we need to be nurtured. It's just how we do it. Um, you know, but all of these things that people say about us, they could be true or not true. The chapter goes on to say that many of the opinions, criticisms, positive or, or negative, any of these opinions as criticisms or positive enforcements are not objective at all. People want to see certain qualities in you, and people put things on you that may or may not fit you exactly. Um, it puts you in a situation where you start to feel that behaviors are positive or negative, acceptable or unacceptable, abnormal or normal.
Mm.
and it kind of puts you in a situation where everybody else is defining you except you. So you have to like take a step back and understand that you're a mystery to yourself. You have to figure out exactly who you are on the inside and what is like the reality of you. Just because somebody says you're shy doesn't mean you're shy. You don't have to be shy, right? And I keep
Nope.
saying shy because they use that in the book. Um, but it would go for anything, you know. There's only
Yeah.
certain things that you are. If you're tall, you're tall. If you're short, you're short. Okay. If you're,
Yep.
you know, but these are not personality traits. Okay. And just actually just
Well,
accepting that.
okay. Short can be a personality trait. Let's be honest here.
Listen, megalomaniac, tall can be too. Okay, let's put that right out there. You know, there's the 5 foot person who's just got to take you out. Like, let's
See,
just,
this is why I'm glad I live on the other side of the world. She can't throw anything at me.
he's like, yeah, don't throw it. Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah, just trying to throw me off my game there. But anyway, in order to approach it for a fearless way, okay, to just conquer the fear of the labels and the what everybody thinks of you and what everybody is actually judging you as who you are and whether you're going to disappoint them or whether you're not or whatever and what that actually means, you got to approach it like fearlessly. It begins by it begins by untying yourself from the opinions of others. It
Hmm.
it means valuing your voice above all others. Getting to know you, what you believe, what you stand for, what you think you are, what you think you are or could be, or where you are and where you want to be, above what everybody else is saying you are. Like, what
And
do you
this
actually
is
believe? What do you actually believe about yourself? Okay.
this is should probably point out this is in respect to uh oh, I hate when this happens. I completely forgot what I was going to say. It's in respect to um your self-worth.
Your self-worth.
It
Exactly. Mhm.
we're not saying this as like, oh, completely ignore what everyone's saying. If they're telling you
Mhm.
don't jump, you probably shouldn't jump off the cliff. It's going to be bad for your health. Don't be like, I ain't listening to you.
No, no, it has nothing to do
It's
with that. It
yeah.
has to do with your personal perception of yourself, that
Yep.
your voice needs to be the loudest. Your voice
Mhm.
needs to be the one that you go to first, and then you can actually balance your voice with the opinion of others and look for information and stuff like that. But you got to come from a place of knowing you, like
Yes.
knowing where you're coming from and what you are standing on. Because here's the thing, it YouTube's gonna come for me, but I'm gonna say it loud and clear. Your personality can change and should regularly. If not, you're living
Mhm.
in a box. You're living in a box, okay? And you have absolutely are not having any experience in the world whatsoever. If your personality itself, and personality meaning, by the way, you use you not like the little idiosyncrasies. I just mean your personality. If you feel that you're shy, you actually can change that. You can take steps to become more extroverted, to put yourself more out there. You
Yep.
actually can do that, accomplish it, and be that within a certain amount of time and be shy no more. Personality can change. Personality traits, I should say, can
You
change certain
uh,
aspects of personality, right?
it's actually have you I've actually noticed this, that a lot of people tend to like saying and this isn't a dig at anyone in particular, because I've been guilty of it myself, but um I find a lot of people like to say whether they're like very extroverted or very introverted, um and I I it's not actually that simple,
No,
because
Most people are a sliding scale of both.
Well, I can almost guarantee. So you know those everyone knows those personality tests, right? And how they like to and how they use them and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Well, you you can actually take that test one day and come out as one particular personality, take it another, and you might even come out as a completely different personality.
Mhm.
It
Because
nothing 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 is real. It's not a good idea to think things like that are fixed. Basically,
no, they're
It-
fluid.
it's
All personality traits are fluid based on situation. They are.
yep.
Absolutely.
It's not an immutable
Mhm.
trait. It
Right.
is incredibly fluid. Because I
Mhm.
guarantee everyone can think of a period of time where they were really extroverted and they were actually out and it may not have been like in front of you may not have stood up in front of a crowd and said a speech or anything or captivated an entire audience on something. It may have just been you were more the leader within your group of friends for that day
Mhm.
or something like that. A
Um,
growth mindset is the is a really good thing to have.
I like that idea of growth mindset because that's exactly the key in this chapter because they focus on the fact that you don't advance or retreat with other people's opinions in your mind. It has to be yours. You got to drown out the voices of others that translate into doubt or keep or holding you back. You got to focus on on anything that you've internalized that is a limit, not what they put. And you've got to think of the ideas to actually change that behavior and to move you forward because your personality can be altered like just by conscious decision to do so, to be more outgoing or
Mhm.
to not or to be or take more chances or things like that, to uh we barely on a regular basis we don't focus enough as individuals on how much willpower and focus plays in our actions for change. You in For this chapter, what the goal is to raise the opinion of yourself and what you're capable of doing. Being your own cheerleader, being the voice you listen to the most. Um, because you're the one that knows what you want to accomplish. You're the one that actually knows what's holding you back. You're the one that knows what fear you have to address, where your shortcomings are. You know, um, listening to an outside voice saying what it is labels you as it. Knowing it
Mm.
for yourself makes it a something that you can, focusing it on yourself in dealing with it makes it something you can change, makes it something within your control, in your power to do something about it. Having somebody else tell you what it is doesn't give you any power to change it.
Yep.
Recognizing it and working on it on yourself is where the power comes from. And
Mhm.
that is what this, for me, that's what this chapter is trying to do, to get us all to like reach into that untapped reservoir of self knowledge and self. Where is it at? Where do I want to improve? What do I want to do? What do I actually want or feel that I am? And do I have to change anything about it? Or can I just like pat myself on the back and move forward? But always knowing that you have the ability to do it, focusing on our strengths in our willpower, our tenacity to actually accomplish it, that giving ourselves the
Mhm.
power, giving ourselves the power to do it in
Mhm.
just, it doesn't matter, we all look for other people's approval on things. We do. It feels good if somebody says something you're doing is good. It feels great,
Absolutely.
doesn't it? You know,
Mhm.
but how much better does that feel when you were doing it and you felt this was good? This is good. It's nice to be recognized for it, but it's recognition. It's recognition. It doesn't make it true. Okay, it's just recognition of something you already believe. That's when it feels the best.
Yep.
That's when you're moving forward. Okay, because if you need that recognition to move forward, you're setting
You're
yourself
gonna have
up
a rough
for
time.
failure. You're setting yourself up for a lot of setbacks. Okay, um, you need to
Because
be less confined by doubts, and that is hard. That's really really hard. That is, I struggle with this constantly. And don't laugh, Rekkr. Do not laugh. Do not laugh, because I
I
know
make no
everybody.
promises.
Just, I know sometimes I come off with like, yeah, she don't, she just roll with it. Like she's very confident. I know that people think that and say that. And actually, maybe not so much. I'm constantly readdressing what I'm doing and who and how I'm approaching things on a constant basis. I have a lot of doubt that I'm approaching it in the right way. Or a lot. I spend a lot of time on it. And for me, I have to spend less time doubting and more time doing. you know, because you just waste so much time. You just
Hmm.
you're not going to get anywhere just thinking about what could go wrong, thinking about whether you're good enough, thinking about why you don't have something. Somebody else has it. Well, why not you? Like, somebody else accomplished it. Why not you? What is it that is holding you back? Why don't you believe you can do it? What makes you so different? you know
Hmm.
I mean, these successful people we look up to in whatever field it is in life, whoever
And
you look to as thinking, yeah, they made it. Yeah, they got it. They're not so different from you. Like, they're not superhuman. They don't have superpowers. They
no,
haven't been touched by the golden magic wand.
nope.
Okay. They
The
are
only
more like
the,
you than you think. Yeah.
the only difference between someone who's seen a lot of success and someone who hasn't is the amount that they've failed and learned. Uh,
Hmm.
most m- most people who have succeeded have huge swaths of knowledge in a particular field, and that's what gave them the edge, is that knowledge of the fundamentals,
Hmm.
um and the fact that they are willing to fail. And
Hmm.
failure is something i I strongly believe you should be happy when you should be just as happy when you fail as you are when you succeed, because either way, because well, actually, you're learning more from your failures. You will always learn more from your failures than you will from your successes.
Hmm. And here's the thing. It, Sometimes what gets in our way of the actual success is knowing that we need to have the drive to do it. That word ambition, that word of, wanting it, going for it. That word in society in some places is looked as too aggressive and not the thing to do. The holding
Mm,
back that, oh, she's just an ambitious person. She's always out to get whatever it is for her or this or that. Having that opinion like put out, which is quite common, as a matter of fact, when somebody starts addressing their own personal goals and putting themselves first, having self-belief, coming out as confident in what they want to try to treat and just going for it, there will be a
yep.
whole group of people out there putting labels on you like, well, that's just not how it's done. Like,
And
who do you think you are to go for it? Who do you think you are, putting in your personal ambitions first before anything else? And what I say to that is that is the voice that you've got to stick an apple in its face, like right now, right in that mouth, and shut them up, because you know what? That's them just making themselves feel better because they don't have the metal to do it.
and
And
I
that it's just
uh,
a way to narrow the field. It's just a
yeah.
way
Um
to keep you from trying, you know.
and I think it's also something that also might be, or I think is important, is not how do I put it? Not leaving things to not believing things are ordained by chance or luck, like we were talking about before.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of like what sort of I guess in a way, kind of like having even if we have all our own unique characteristics, we all have the same potential. Like, and of course, if you're like 5'5", you're not going to be. You don't have the potential to be an NBA star. But I mean, apart from the immutable characteristics and any like severe limitation, we're all we can all do it.
Yep. Yeah. We definitely can.
Or at least
Well,
having that mindset,
mm-hmm.
at the very least, like not 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 thinking that you can't do something because that because I don't know, you might think the person who you're looking at is smarter than you, and that's why they've accomplished it.
Mm-hmm. No, you can look to others for inspiration, but you
Mm,
cannot. It's not a good idea to judge your your rate of success or failure based on others at all, because
mm,
this book is telling us that's an internal thing that you have complete control over yourself. And once you realize that you have that control, and you start acting and doing the steps like you do have that power and that control, and you start
mhm,
gaining your power back for self-motivation, for self-improvement, for you basically you just decide to put your hands on the steering wheel and drive yourself, instead of being let's just put it out there, instead of being a victim of circumstance and settling for whatever it is that life throws at you.
yeah,
We're all in situations that are a combination of things that happen in life and where we came from, and a continuance of events, just a timeline of events, that things that happen. But what we do about it ourselves is what matters. Whether
mhm,
we accept it to stay there, and we may, because that may be okay for us, and that's perfectly fine. Or we decide to do something about it and go forward because it's not good enough for us. You know, it's all a
and that it
matter of having your power and enough knowledge of yourself to make that decision right there, so that you're
and
not a victim of life. Yeah.
yeah, and understanding that you can change what you want. You can absolutely get better at something you might be bad at. Like, I'm going to pick on you, Mousy, because because I saw what you were saying. Like,
About
for
well.
instance, getting better at welding.
Yep.
If you really want to, you absolutely can get better at welding. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you might be starting from a place from a much more difficult position where you find welding much more difficult than, say, someone who's had
Mm-hmm.
some sort of experience or something that might have uh, helped them be more natural at it. But that's absolutely something you can change. And in fact, I actually do have a good example that I remember. There was a case study of of a kid who, if I remember correctly, a scientist or someone wanted to test the theory behind IQ, and so and test the theory behind IQ being a fixed thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, if I remember correctly, he got the kid to do an IQ test, like the official one, the Mensa one, I believe it was. And he got the results from it. And then he trained, or at least like he taught the kid. The kid studied the aspects and stuff like that, and he actually proved that you can improve your IQ score. And in fact,
Mm-hmm.
because his IQ score went up and it continued going up. So it's not like nothing's fixed. You could like we were talking about before, you can be introverted you can change that. If you're introverted, you can change that if you want to. But this is all out of like your own desire.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't want to do something, if you kind of half-heartedly like, I'd like to be able to do something, but like I I I don't really have time for it, or I don't see the worth in making time for it, or you're just not in it. Of course you're not going to get better. It's
Mm-hmm.
and that's fine. Like if you don't, for instance, see a point in getting better at welding because you might not ever be welding anything, well, that's fine. You're not going to get better at it.
Mm-hmm.
knowing it knowing that you could get better at it if you want to is sometimes okay.
Exactly. You get to decide whether you want to actually be a decent welder and go forward and try a way to do that, or decide that there's not enough welding jobs that you're going to have to do personally. You're not going to take it on as a career. It's just to fix things around the house. And you know what? The guy down the street that I can get $10 to, well, he could do it. Like, fine. I'm moving on to something else that makes me happy. That's
Mhm.
perfectly okay. But what you can't do is come into the chat and say, I should never be allowed to weld again. You can't do that. You have to actually make a decision. Do you want to improve on it? Because you do have that power to do it. You can't take that power away from yourself. But you also have the power to make the decision that it's not that important to me. Who cares? Like, I'm going to
Mm,
go do something else anyway. Like, you know what I mean? It's about
mm,
that personal power. This whole book. It's about giving yourself that personal power, knowing yourself well enough, uh, and actually supporting yourself well enough with that personal power, especially in this chapter, because to get back on track for 50, like he says, your opinion of yourself becomes your reality. This is true. If you have all these doubts, then no one will believe in you and everything will go wrong. If you think the opposite will happen. It is that simple. I do believe it. Listen, one of the best things my nan said, and it can be expanded to me, was attitude is everything. When you leave the house, make sure you pick a good one. Mindset. She means mindset, how you approach things. Also, that could be translated to your belief in yourself. If you think you can't, you won't. Period.
mhm,
You're going to be the thing that's in your way. There's enough things in your way in life. There's enough obstacles that are going to come from anything that you want to accomplish. Why make yourself the biggest one? Like,
mhm.
what? Like, it's really counterproductive. Totally.
Yep.
And for most of us, it's our biggest problem. We get in the way. We don't believe in ourselves enough. We're not even sure. Some of us sit here and not even sure it's a good idea that we want to do it in the first place. Like, we might get judged. Like I was saying, for me, it was very hard when I was in a career. Like, I had, before I was here just doing this hobby, there was a
Mm,
whole life before that, and it was very career oriented. I'll say that. And to be able to do that, I had to face judgment constantly of, you're just too ambitious. You are an A-type personality. You are just like agenda oriented. You are just go. Everything's a contest. Everything's this. How many times have people been said, even in the Discord when we're playing it, she's just too damn competitive? Well, that all comes from that side of it, okay?
yep.
And I had to hear that constantly, and I had to push that aside and say, no, that's not me. This is what I want. And to get from A to Z, this is what I got to do. And
Mhm,
that was it. And I focused on that instead. But do you get judged? Yeah, because they make wanting better for yourself and actually working for it in some areas of life, they make that like it's bad.
They
Like
villainize it.
they
Absolutely.
villainize it and make it like horrible. And yet at the same time, oxymoron that life is, they praise you when you get to the top.
Mm-hmm.
Like, make that make sense. Like,
How
here
many?
you
Okay.
are.
How many times have we known some famous person or well-to-do person, basically have all of their actually we have everyone knows one person who happens to have gotten themselves into the greatest position possible in the world, who happens to have some of the worst possible have some of the worst possible history out there. They, for some reason, when you succeed, a lot of people don't look at your uh, shortcomings or some of the mistakes you might have made as much of a bigger deal.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I just find it like it just always fascinated me how there was the double standard that way. Like
Mm,
like as if we're all supposed to sit here and just accept our lot on life, and yet
yep.
you get judged for that too. Like, it's
Diddy is
it.
actually a really good example of this as well. People weren't really doing anything while he was successful, and now that he's completely falling apart, how would you? It's just an absolute bomb on him.
Yeah, but
People
it's
are
not
just
like
coming
people.
left and right.
I know, but it wasn't like people didn't see it all along.
Oh,
Diddy's
absolutely. But that's the perfect example. People
Diddy's
saw it
been
all
who's
along,
Diddy's
but
been. Yeah.
no one was doing anything. They were
Mm-mm.
still praising him for his success.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But damn, So now let's talk about applications, because this all sounds like, it can all just sound like word salad, right? It can all just sound like
Mm,
we're just putting stuff out there. But the key of it is to try to explain how it can be applied. Well, how do you actually start building up on your self-worth, on the power of pushing you past your limits, understanding you, accepting your weaknesses, but also praising what you're really good at, and then just trying to redefine that balance to what works for you. You know, you might not be good at something like Mousy said about welding, and that's fine. If it's okay with you to not be good at welding, fine. It's not a big deal. You don't have to do a damn thing about it. But if it bothers you, if it has some weight in your life on how you're going to judge yourself because you're not good at it, then you got to start a process to actually do something to get better at it, so that you are supporting yourself and not letting the negativity take over, like supporting yourself in a positive manner, because you don't even actually ever have to get good at welding, you know but if it bothers you that you're not, you need a process that is actually working towards improving on it. You never really have
mm,
to get great, but what you can't do is use that I'm not good at welding as a negative in your assessment of who you are,
mm,
because it should be, I'm not that great at welding, but I'm working at getting better. If it matters, like we're only talking about things that
yeah.
actually matter. Okay. If welding's not important to you and you're not good at it, you toss it out and you move on to something else. Like Malcolm said, I'd rather build a pond. Cool.
Mm,
And you're a good pond builder, and that feels great. And that's how you build your self-confidence. You say, this part doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I get rid of it. Like, so what? I can't weld. Who cares? Out it goes. It doesn't take up any space in my life anymore because I'm a good pond builder, and that is important. And you're building your self-confidence as you go. You need the positives. You need the steps of reinforcement for yourself. And it means more when you think you're a good pond builder than it does when I say you're a good pond builder. It helps when I say you're a good pond builder, right? It feels good because I'm acknowledging something you should believe already. That's the important part. If you're spending all your time on the pond building and improving on it, you need to give yourself the pat on the back and approach your skill level honestly about it. Okay. But with confidence. That you like this and you're good at it, you know, because then it only feels better when people acknowledge it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Say thanks for being an example for us, Mousy. That was fun.
Yep.
Okay.
Just threw her on the cross.
I know. Sorry about that, Mouse, but sorry, not sorry. It was just perfect. It was just perfect. It just really kind of worked. But we should get to the let's get to the keys. Okay.
Yes.
Do you want to try to read this? You did really well last night. Go ahead.
One's own free, untrammeled desires. Did we look up what untrammeled means again?
Oh, I'll find it right now for them and put it in the chat.
That's probably that's one of them university words. Damn.
God damn it, Claire. Not deprived of freedom of action or expression, not restricted or hampered, untethered. There you go.
Yep.
How's that? There you go. Go ahead.
There we go. So one's own free, untrammeled desires, one's own whim, all of these is precisely that which fits no classification, and which is constantly knocking all systems and theories to hell. And where did our sages get the idea that man must have normal, virtuous desires? What man needs is only his own independent wishing, whatever that independence may cost and wherever it may lead. By Fyodor Dostoevsky.
Theodore.
Theodore. Sorry, I forgot that.
Yeah.
Theodore Dostoevsky.
Yeah, good job. Excellent. I'm sorry. Yeah. Sorry, not sorry. You did good. So then we're going to get to the part of the book where it says, okay, that's been a lot of talk. We told you, yeah, you should do this. Yeah, you should do that. Like, wouldn't that be great? Now they're going to say, how about the strategies that actually help you push yourself to the limits where you are your own best advocate? You are the one patting yourself on the back all the time. You are the one constantly going over the things about yourself, okay, and for yourself first, okay? It's not that you don't listen to anybody else, but primarily yours is the strongest voice. Yours is the strongest opinion of you, okay? You want to read the categories, Rick?
Yep. So the following 5 strategies to help you push past the limits: defy all categories, constantly reinvent yourself, subvert your patterns, create a sense of destiny, and bet on yourself.
They all sound good. And let's talk about some of the ones from the book. Now, I'm going to bring up a slide with an example, but first we're going to talk about the one from the book. Like, defy all categories, okay? That is definitely Amelia Earhart in the book. They talk about, you guys know Amelia Earhart, the female pilot. She did end up disappearing, but she was, shall we say, an individual. She was an individual, did not conform to anybody's idea of what she should be. She started out as a young woman, beautiful, talented, funny, had aspirations for piloting and all kinds of things. What she didn't want to do is marry and settle down like in her time frame everybody expected her to be. She said, nope, that ain't for me. Why would I want to do that?
And when she finally did, she even had a contract written up. When she got married to someone, she actually had a contract written up saying that he was not allowed to get in the way of her personal freedom outside of the marriage.
Exactly. They would respect each other and be there for each other. But her personal freedom about her goals and things that she always wanted, like flying around the world and all these things that she wanted to do, that was never going to change just because she married him. Not going
Mm-hmm.
to happen. Yeah. She dressed any way she wants. People didn't know. I mean, seriously, there were discussions on a regular basis. Is she a male? Is she a female? Is she androgynous? Like, what the heck is she? Like, she dressed any way she wanted. She didn't care what anybody said about anything. She had a very quirky style, and she didn't care. And she was probably one of the most happiest people in her day-to-day life because she was doing exactly what she wanted to do. Now, she disappeared somewhere in one of her flights, but she accomplished records, longest flights and all kinds of things, and then
She flew
disappeared
across
altogether.
the Gulf of, well, I guess the Gulf of America now.
Mm-hmm. The Gulf of No, it's not the Gulf of America. Do not subscribe to the rhetoric. I refuse. No, not on this channel. No,
But it's the Gulf of America.
no, it's not. No, it's not. Stop. Okay. All right. But it was a perfect example. A great figurehead we could all look up to.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we talk about defying all categories, it just means resisting those societal labels, resisting all the
If
labels that people want to put on you.
and that's if you want. If you don't want to fit into those labels and you want to do something, or it's not even if you don't want to fit into those labels. If you're doing something that doesn't quite fit into the labels, that's fine. You don't
Mm-hmm.
have to. It's I mean it's not something you should like go out of your way to try and do, but
Mm-hmm.
like if it happens that you are defying the labels, it's fine. That's just as good as anything else.
Mm-hmm. It is. In other words, the labels do exist, but you don't have to wear them if you don't like them.
Mm,
Period. Okay. Um, just to resist them. The definition is to reject these labels and expectations to maintain your autonomy and unpredictability. Don't let others label or box you in. It's not true unless you say it is. Okay. Categories are cages that shrink your identity and potential. And that's true.
yep,
They are ways that others are trying to make us think about ourselves. But if you don't subscribe to it, don't wear it. Don't wear that label. Challenge it. Okay. Example
exactly.
is Richard Pryor. Okay.
But
Um.
I I
Yes.
think something as well. Um, if you do happen to fit into that label, and it just happens that that does fit you, don't be afraid of being labeled. I think that's just as an important mindset to have as well, is not to be afraid of being put to have that label if it just so happens.
True. And also people putting a label on you that you don't actually subscribe to can be a challenge too. Like
Mm,
let's use something lazy. If
mm,
somebody says that you're a lazy person, right? Now that might offend you at first, but you
mm-hmm.
should look at it as to why are they saying that, right? Okay. Is it because they don't see what I've actually accomplished? Well, maybe you're not lazy. Maybe you just don't expound your accomplishments. Maybe they don't have enough information about you. They don't know what you do. Okay. Maybe you're just really quiet and reserved and not lazy. You're doing stuff all day, but nobody knows about it. Okay. Um, Take a look at it, but you don't have to wear it if it doesn't actually fit. You can
Mm,
recategorize it, but you need to look at it honestly. And I think this is a point when this slide first came up that Rekkr and I both agreed on. You can't just disassociate what people say about you without a critical eye on yourself, on whether there might be some kernel of truth to anything. You can't just fool yourself. If you're sitting on your ass all day doing nothing, eating bonbons, you cannot say, well, I'm not going to let them label me lazy.
yeah,
you need to own that shit. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to say, okay, I'm lazy on purpose. I'm not lazy. I'm reserved. Okay. But you need to own it, take a look at it. You can
And don't make
recategorize.
excuses for it if it's a bad trait that you want to change.
Exactly. Like, because we don't want to fall into the trap that we are actually supporting people to be delusional. That is the total opposite of this book. This
Yeah.
book is all about not being delusional, accepting
Let
realities and challenges in all the imperfections and doing something about it. Okay.
yeah,
Okay. Because delusion is not power, it's escapism. Let's get that
yep.
straight. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
This book is all about getting our power. Okay. And I think that's kind of what you wanted to, like we were talking about, right? Right. You want to just
Mm,
make sure people aren't using it to hide from the truth about
exactly.
themselves. Running away from labels could be a way of hiding from the truth. We're saying don't let them label it on you without some agreement from yourself that that might be
Yeah.
something. Okay.
And
Take a look at it. Yeah.
yeah. And like don't worry if people do label you. Like to be honest, labels are a normal part of life. It's how we categorize things. If you happen to fall into a particular category with someone who wants to label you that way, then it's just, I
Listen,
mean, how's it affecting you? Like,
listen. We
seriously.
really we could use the examples from before. I don't like being called short, but is it a
Mm,
fact? I'm 5 foot nothing. I'm short. Okay. I have to accept that label.
she's
Okay.
mantelpiece size.
Okay. Listen, and you're listen, menace. Okay. Mr. Humble. Mm,
Yep.
check yourself. Okay. Now
Okay,
what
I'll
was
stop.
okay, you did it again. I have no idea what I was going to say. Okay. Okay. That was revenge. Like, all right. Maybe we should get to the example. Damn. But I am short and you're tall.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's certain things you can't run away from.
Yeah, there's immutable characteristics.
Like being a ball buster to your
Yeah,
co-host. Yeah. Okay.
exactly.
Anyway, Richard Pryor. Some people might not remember him. Here's an oldie but goodie. This goes back to the 70s. But Richard Pryor defied racial and comedic stereotypes by blending raw social commentary with vulnerability. As the first black host of Saturday Night Live in 1975, people forget, like they never had one before that, but it's true. He performed, and that was a progressive show. So it was kind of startling to realize this. But he performed the controversial word association skit with Chevy Chase, where they exposed racial tensions, like when people say the word watermelon and somebody goes black person, like, or fried chicken. They actually put it out there on how these racial tensions actually existed still through word association. And they made a whole big comedic scene about it, but they actually addressed it. He later created his own show, satirizing racism and censorship while portraying a nude alien, dismantling norms of acceptable black comedy. Here's the thing, he was also self-deprecating. Richard Pryor was not a perfect person. He always went across the stereotype, but he was a crack addict that lit himself on fire. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
As an addict, and actually did a whole comedy show about it later. He addressed it. He came back out. He made fun of himself for it. How stereotypical was that? Like, of course, the black guy became a drug addict and lit himself on fire. Like, seriously, he addressed it. He went out there. He went against the label of course he did it, and turned it around. Like, he didn't have to just be that. You know what I mean? He took that label and turned it on its head.
Exactly.
Yeah. As a good example. There are so many different examples of famous people for defying all categories. And
Oh,
I could give you a whole bunch, but I think the more important thing is to define it over in what you can do.
mm,
little, and here it is. There's going to be action steps for each one of these key suggestions on how to do this. They don't mean like you have to do this word for word. They're just ideas, you know. They're just little tricks that are commonly known throughout what would you call it, Rekkr? What would we call it? The self-help industry. Like there
Yeah.
was like
Like
10,000 million books. And yes, I needed to have
the
the help of AI
yeah,
to narrow it down. And yes, I
this
did use AI to narrow it down but there
yeah,
are just some
this is like this isn't
suggestions that
new.
come up more often than not, over and
Mm,
over again. And
yeah,
it
absolutely.
doesn't, yeah, and there's no guarantee that you doing any of these are going to do anything with it. You got to, the thing is to have your power to recreate it yourself and to take some kind of action towards becoming your own self advocate, your main cheerleader. Okay. Um, and just to look at the keys that they're suggesting to readdress some of the situations for yourself. So to defy categorization or being limited by a label, you start by auditing societal labels imposed on you, like we were talking about, your career role, your personality type. You identify contradictions in your identity. I'm not lazy. I'm just unresourceful. Okay. um, like you're an introverted leader with an introverted leader, which is an oxymoron. Like, and you lean into them as strengths rather than weaknesses. You address them.
Hmm.
You do,
Or figure
but
out
you
how to
don't.
turn them into
Right.
strengths.
But you address them in reality. Okay. You don't just say, okay, well, lazy. Okay, you don't get to say if somebody says you're lazy, or if common perception is that you're lazy because nobody sees you doing anything. You don't just get to say, yeah, well, lazy is great.
Mm,
That you can't do that. Okay, you got to find the great in lazy and explain it. You can't just push it aside. Like, okay, fine,
hmm
you know. Because you have to deal in reality. We have to take the other steps of the book into consideration here when dealing with this chapter. You don't
Now,
get to forget about all that other stuff.
if you monetize your laziness, keep at it. Just keep going.
No, but here's the thing, like when they use the example, and I know this is the one that got you because it says if you're labeled it too quiet at work, reframe silence as strategic observation and deploy insights during critical meetings. Like, yes, you are too quiet. And you get to say, okay, but being too quiet is okay because this is what I'm actually doing. I'm observing. I am quiet. I know why they say I'm too quiet because I'm actually taking everything in. Then make sure that
That
you're
you
showing the
actually
result
are
of that,
taking it in.
that you're taking it in, and show the results by deploying insights during critical meetings about what you've seen and observed. That's what that means. It doesn't mean
hmm
just reframe
Use it as an
the
excuse to
label.
just remain quiet.
Exactly. Like you readdress it, you look at it and say, what do they mean by that? And how does that apply to me as a negative or a positive? And what am I going to do about it? How am I going to put it forward? Just that internal look on yourself can be very self-affirming and moving you forward as long as you take negatives and either do something about them or reframe them into what they actually are in a positive light. Because, negativity in any form grows faster than positivity, and that's just a fact. That one negative thing that you're thinking will
hmm
undo the 5 positives you just laid out if you don't get control of it and reframe it into an actual truth and not a negativity.
Mm,
And for it to be an actual truth, that means you can't do anything about it. I'm short. That's not a negative. It's a truth. I can't do anything
hmm
about that. Okay. I don't have to look at it as a negative anymore. I need a footstool to get to the top cabinet. Or ergo, why I only date or marry men over 6 feet.
Yeah.
Top cabinet syndrome.
And
It's like,
to be fair, there are actually some really good pros to being short because it is so easy to catch people off guard if they because people tend to underestimate people who are shorter. I don't know why. There's like no evidence to support any of that, but it actually gives you a position where you can catch people off guard a lot easier in scenarios where you're like, for instance, I guess in a good example is in the business world. If you're not very tall, some people do look at you a little differently. And if you defy those odds, it catches them off guard and it makes an even bigger impression than if they had a different opinion of you.
You know what? That's very true, because like coming into a room full of men that are all 6 foot tall in 3-piece suits, like as 5 foot me, like was always, I actually would like to watch the ripple. It's kind of nice to walk into a room and just unsettle every single person in there immediately. They don't know what to expect anymore. When you are, that's a business advantage though. Now you have their attention, because getting people's attention in business is not easy. Everybody out there has a brilliant idea. Everybody out there has a great plan. So, I took it as a win. Being short was good. As
Exactly.
difficult as it was being a woman, I took that negative and made it a positive. I used that advantage of them not of expecting very little from me to my advantage quite often. You know, it just is. You got to accept some of the things you can't change. Couldn't change being 5 foot. I couldn't change being a woman. It was obvious. Ain't no damn thing I'm going to be able to do about it. But it didn't have to be a negative. It definitely, in most cases, wasn't. And you have
Exactly.
to approach it that way. So, some of the actions that you can take for defying categorization or not being boxed in: write down labels others have assigned to you and cross out those misaligned with your self-perception. The ones that don't matter because they're just not true, just cross it off.
Exactly.
Intentionally engage in activities that contradict these labels. If you're lazy, go outside.
And that's only if you want to change it. If you want to stay lazy, find a way to monetize it.
Right? Or a technical, pragmatic person, take an improv class or do something different, or just, walk into a hallway and do a shuffle dance. I don't know. Do something unexpected for yourself to say, I'm not just that. Because here's the thing. You want to put it out that I'm not just that. There's more to me than that. Like, you don't know everything. Everybody is a multifaceted gem, in my opinion, and they don't get to turn you into a 1D or a 2D character. Like, they don't. Okay. Use paradoxal self-descriptions. I'm a data-driven creative, or a compassionate disruptor. I think I'm both. Can I be both? I want to be both.
Yeah, I reckon you could be both.
I think I am both. Read that sentence again. I think I actually am.
Yep. Claire is very much a data-driven creative and a compassionate disruptor.
Oh, and sometimes at the same time.
And a lot of the time at the same time.
Oh, this is too fun. Who knew? Who knew destroying my inner workings would be so much fun in public? Like it's just, oh my God. I actually feel like I'm in a room full of people standing here naked right now.
Yeah, it's like it's just like, this is the closest thing to being an exhibitionist without being naked in front of a bunch of people.
Exactly. It's just like this chapter. I'm honest, people. I thought last chapter was the hardest one. This one now is the hardest one. This is something. All right. This is something that people often push against because it gets interpreted commonly as something very negative. But constantly reinventing yourself, embracing evolution. Don't think of it as wearing a mask or changing or, being an actor. Think of it as growth, because that's actually what it is. Anybody that stays the same exactly all the time it's not experiencing things. It's not exposed to a lot of things. There's a natural progression to growth in yourself and personality that happens just through the situations you come across, just through the opportunities that are there, the environments you and the people you expose yourself, situations, group. Look at YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
all the different communities that exist, right? You can't possibly be the same in one community as the other and still fit in and get along and do all of this, right? There's constant growth, and you got to embrace evolution and change and developing all of these little quirks and things like to get along into just not. You can't possibly stay the same, not if you're
No.
actually out there
Mm.
experiencing things. So the definition is to proactively evolve your skills and identify and identity to avoid stagnation. Okay. Growth demands transformation. It just does. It growth is the proof that you've absorbed the lesson. Does that make it simpler? Growth
Yep.
and change is about the progress. It's about
Yeah.
the moving forward. Okay. Staying the same is the enemy of progress. I mean, it can't be any clearer than that. Okay.
Exactly.
Um,
Just like an opinion, it can change.
exactly. You want to do the example from the book was John F. Kennedy.
Mm-hmm.
Most people think he was the same because they only know him like as the president, but he was a very sickly kid, and everybody thought he was weak. He just appeared that way. He had that lifestyle, and yet when he ran for president, we looked at him as the all-American football hero star and
Mm-hmm.
highly educated and the epitome of health and progress of America. He was like the shining star. Well, he reinvented himself with that image, like by working at it. Okay. Also, he was thought to be too young to be president. He was too new to politics. He was too out there. He made himself the average guy, like to everybody else. The average guy with inspiration who was going to buck against the norms. He reinvented himself from what people thought he was. And that's the thing. You don't have to be what everybody says you are. You change that. You cultivate that. You don't have to even be everything you think you are. You know, there's the potential for growth by building your skills, changing your scenarios, exposing yourself to the opportunities for growth. It's possible.
Yep. Maintaining that growth mindset.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you're not from America. When you think of John F. Kennedy, or do you ever? I don't know. But as a past president, I know you do know a lot about
I
our past
um
presidents. Yeah.
I do. To be fair, I probably know a lot more about America at this point than I know about New Zealand. No, that's not true. But no. From an outside perspective, whenever we hear about John F. Kennedy, it's only positive. It's only about a strong leader who was incredibly driven for success and just destined for it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I hear you, Rabbits. There's so many examples. We're gonna use the one from the book and then just pick one randomly. It's impossible, like, to figure out which is the actual best of anything.
Mm.
Um,
It's not so much about what's the best example, it's about what you take from the example.
from the examples, it's about what
Mm.
they did.
Yeah.
So this one they used Donald Glover, who was Childish Gambino, like he had one name and then another name. He transitioned from New York University skit about Derek, from comedy, and then he was writing for 30 Rock, and then he became a rapper. Okay, then he went to acting. Okay, he created Surreal Dramedy in Atlanta. He's got a whole little club there and everything. And he currently just released Grammy-winning music, Redbone. This is America. A while back, while directing films. He's also a director. Guava Island, refusing to be confined to one creative lane. This is what it means. Like constantly
Mm-hmm.
growing in his creativity. Some of these things don't have anything in common except for that they're creative. And he just wanted to get into it. And he did. So it was a good example. Yeah. But for us, just as everyday people, reinventing requires treating growth as iterative errors, like steps, like
Mm-hmm.
phases. Okay. Adopt a growth mindset of by viewing skills as malleable rather than fixed, flexible, like
Mm-hmm.
changeable. Okay. For example, a marketer might learn AI prompt engineering to stay relevant, even if it initially feels uncomfortable because it's AI, or
Mm-hmm.
just like swapping out how you do something. You can't stay stagnant. You got to, especially like if I use the reference of what I do in the business world, if I don't learn the most current applications that everybody's using, I'm going to be phased out. I
Yep.
can't talk to everybody on the same level. I can't share data with everybody on the same level. If they can't open my Excel table to show price increases over the next 10 years, or my forecasting of the advancement of one area of our business, I'm dead in the water. It's
Mm-hmm.
like I can't shit.
Or
So you constantly are reevaluating your skills in
mm-hmm.
changing yourself. Like I might have been known in the office as uh the word pro expert, and then I've got to change everything in how things are communicated throughout business to now become like more proficient in Excel. Like it doesn't matter what I used to be able to do. It matters
Mm-hmm.
to what I need to do now. And I got to step up to it.
Yeah, and AI is actually a really good example because AI is going into nearly well, is going into every single aspect of our life. You can already
As
see it now that like AI is heavily being used in art, for instance. And that's just something that people are going to have to get used to, like whether we like it or not. AI is going to be used in art heavily eventually, like, and but so finding a way to actually adapt to it is just as is really important
hmm
to
I,
this being left behind.
and you know what? Everybody focuses on AI and all for art and things like that. I'm using AI every day lately. This whole month of
Mhm.
May, I've used AI. I used AI to come up with the action steps here. I was able
Mhm.
to use an AI module to search the multitude of self-help books out there on how to accomplish these steps, how to accomplish these keys, suggestions on things you can do to be able to narrow it down. There's just too much information out there. I use it for my true crime, yeah, to search for things, and to do research on laws and compare laws to different states. Like it can be a excellent tool. It's you know, but if I didn't know how to use it, I'd be left behind. I'd still be reading 27 things a day instead of just two.
Mhm.
Mhm. Yeah. So you want to do the action steps? I've been reading a lot. Will you read them for me?
Yeah. So the action steps: conduct quarterly skill audits, identify one absolute habit and replace it with a new uh, uh, competency,
Mm-hmm.
e.g., swapping Excel for Python.
Mm.
Exactly. Mm, Being able being able to be multifaceted isn't necessarily a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, don't don't spread yourself too thin, otherwise you're just not going to get anywhere and you'll be busy for no good reason.
Mm-hmm.
Um, mimic Glover's errors by rebranding projects, e.g., a lawyer launching a true crime podcast to explore storytelling. That's that's true.
But
Like how many it there's a growing community of professionals that are that are migrating to YouTube to make content, and they're actually finding that they're making more money on YouTube making content than they are doing their job, which is crazy when you think about it. Embrace unrelated oh, that's way too small, hang on. Diversification. Apply your core strengths to unfamiliar fields, e.g., a teacher using classroom management skills in community organizing. Yeah. So like taking, for instance, okay, here's going to be an extreme one. But so for instance, if you could take a seemingly unrelated skill, for instance, if you knit. So if you knit, it's a very like you have to sort of stay within a certain confine of it. Like you go knit, crochet, stuff like that. Knitting, if you think about it, would lend well to, for instance, making chainmail. Just as a random example. So that would be a way of applying what appears to be an unrelated skill.
It is,
to
because
an
that's how
unfamiliar field.
they actually knit that metal. They actually do. They actually did a process.
Yep.
Like, okay.
I've actually made chainmail myself. It is
So,
really hard.
does that mean I'm getting a scarf for Christmas? You're going to knit me a scarf?
I did actually make a chainmail scarf. I ended up
No,
throwing
not
it
a
up.
chainmail. I mean like a regular one.
Oh.
Like, just, like since you know how to knit.
I don't have knitting needles actually.
But anyway, I get the point. Like, you can take that skill that you have and actually change it to something else. I do that every day with my hobby. I take a lot of skills that I learned in business or as being an instructor and use it out here, just reinvent it. Having to read business change and tax documents like all the time translates to reading legal documents in the morning now. It's just a habit. I just changed it over to the hobby. Just used it for something else, just finding new ways to do things and refining your skills, keeping them fresh. It's important. Okay, we gotta get to the next one. We're gonna be way behind. Okay, number 3.
Subvert your patterns, disrupting routine, breaking habitual behaviors to foster innovation. Predictability breeds stagnation. Keep others off balance and yourself evolving by doing the unexpected. And the example is Quentin Tarantino abandoned linear storytelling in Pulp Fiction. In Pulp Fiction, the 1994 one, showing intersecting character perspectives to heighten suspense. In Kill Bill, he mixed martial arts with spaghetti western types. Well, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood reimagined history, subverting audience expectations and biographical accuracy. Now, there is a thing that is about this one. We actually got into a little bit of a discussion
because the book they used Frank Lloyd Wright as the architect, as the example, because you got to preface it with that or they're not going to understand our little tiff.
Yeah. So but this Quentin Tarantino one actually works really well as well. Because so what I've noticed with a lot of self-help books, and a lot of books that try and be inspiring about people who buck the curve and do these really crazy, outlandish things that go right against the grain. Chances are you're not going to be able to do it if you have no clue what you're doing. What really irks me about these books is that it doesn't explain that basically every single person who that has bucked the trend or been successful in really doing groundbreaking stuff, like for instance Quentin Tarantino, they have an incredible foundation and understanding of of the foundations. For instance, that understanding linear storytelling. I guarantee Quentin Tarantino would be able to explain what linear storytelling is incredibly well. So for him to be able to actually do what he did and create Pulp Fiction, he already had that basis of
Mhm.
understanding. Like none of the
Exactly.
yeah, okay,
Cinematography, movie
yeah,
making in general, plots, authoring a script, like all of this. He's
yeah,
got a great foundation in it. What you're trying to say is before you can turn it on its end, you have to know what it's about. You have to
yeah.
know what it
Like
is before you can change it. Before
um
you can, yeah.
yeah, the example that I actually came up with yesterday was, how are you meant to build a bridge if you've never heard of it or seen one before?
Exactly.
That's
And then
essentially what it's like.
didn't we
You're
have a whole chapter on that? Like knowing, reading the room, knowing the
yeah,
situation before you try to
under
get involved in it or use it to your advantage or to find out what it means to you. You have to actually
yep,
understand it, understand the process,
understand the
absorb it,
rules. You
understand
can't
the rules, right?
you can't if you don't know what the rules are, how are you meant to break them?
Mhm.
If you're going into something trying to say, I'm going to be revolutionary, I'm gonna I'm gonna um I'm gonna be this trailblazer. Well, if you're trying to do it straight out the gate, how are you meant to trailblaze if you've never even walked the trail?
Right, and the example they used in the book was, Lloyd Wright, the architect,
Mm,
because he actually would had all the foundations of being an architect first, before he could turn architectural concept on its head and do something different. But he had to have the foundation of architecture in general to do it. Like
exactly.
he had to understand the process before he could change the process. He had to
Mhm.
he had to at least understand all he could about it and absorb all that information before he decided, well, that's not for me. I want to do it different. So let's try this. You need the foundation. And I agree, Rabbits. Guy Ritchie is perfect. He would have been a great example. Also, I love Guy Ritchie.
Mm,
The Gentleman wasn't that like exquisite, like for storytelling
exactly.
and turning things
And
on it. Yeah.
so, going back to that story in the book, they used him because he did something that was really kind of crazy, and that this is why I'm wanting to emphasize that he had the foundation first. What he basically did was he was commissioned to build a house next to a waterfall, and the person who commissioned him wanted the house to face the waterfall. And when he was trying to draw something up to make a blueprint for it, he couldn't come up with anything. He just he was struggling. He couldn't figure out what he needed to do. So instead of banging his head against the wall, what he basically did, he completely ignored it. Entirely, totally ignored it. Right up until the day the person who commissioned him called him up and said, um, basically said, I want to see what you've done. I want to see what you've done. I'm coming down there now. Sorry, I don't think he said that he's coming down. He said, he demanded to see the design.
Mhm.
And so he basically said, it's done. he said the design's done, and what he did was in the 2 hours of the guy who commissioned him traveling to him, he actually drew it up right on the spot. He used his creativity and that limited amount of time to draw up the building and design it. And
It's
what he ended up coming up with was a building that went over the waterfall, and it was an absolute hit,
it,
and people actually thought it was his greatest work.
it
And
was like, yeah, it was part of the waterfall. It like
yeah,
incorporated whole landscaping. It was gorgeous. Yeah.
yeah. And it's it's a great story, but it misses out the fact that he had so much foundational preparation to be
Mm-hmm.
able to actually take that chance, to actually take the risk of being like, you know what?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not even gonna do anything until the last minute. I'm not even gonna I'm not even gonna draw anything out. There's no way that anyone who doesn't have a significant amount of understanding
Mm-hmm.
and knowledge in a field could ever pull something like that off. So,
Exactly.
it,
And that's why the chapters, it's important to remember the chapters all build on each other here. Like
mm,
that goes directly to knowing, like to realism, the reality of the situation, into actually knowing the process. The whole chapter we did on learning the whole process, absorbing it, learning everything you can about something before you decide to actually turn it on its own, and then make it your own, like change it the way that you want. But you have to take the time to absorb it. You also have to take the time to read the room,
yep,
understand projections on what's going to be popular, what's going to be not, and actually taking information. It's all about information learning too, so that you don't box yourself in. It all kind of layers on each other,
yeah.
very well.
I like the saying, imitate before you innovate.
Hmm.
That
Yeah.
boils it down pretty well.
Yeah. Yeah,
Imitate before you innovate.
it does. So pattern subversion begins with mapping routines that create stagnation. Tarantino disrupted Hollywood's three-act structure by presenting events out of sequence, forcing audiences to engage actively. Similarly, a manager might rotate team roles quarterly to prevent complacency. This is how people learn from each other. You take the best ones and you move them, around into all the other teams, so that you get an equally based teams that are all able to handle the projects on a level. You rotate things up so people don't become too comfortable and they're not challenged in any way. It's a standard business practice, actually. You know,
Hmm.
Mm. You want to read the steps?
Yep. Action steps. Take daily routines for 72 hours. Identify one autopilot habit to disrupt, e.g., changing your morning ritual. Apply creative constraints. Limit resources to spark innovation, e.g., writing proposal using only 500 words.
That's
That
what
is
he did.
a
That's what the
um
architect did.
yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
That's an example. That's a really good exercise that a lot it's very common to do in artistic ventures where you will actually limit what you can do. For instance, um, limiting. So, for instance, if you're going to paint a picture, you're only allowed to use, say, two or three colors,
Right.
and you're not allowed to mix them. You're only limited to two or three colors. Some of the some of the best work has come out of restraint, come out of limitations.
Mm.
Limitations creates innovations. I
Mm-hmm.
guess is another good saying.
Mm-hmm.
Borrow from Tarantino's playbook. Re- uh, reorder tasks, e.g., tackling the hardest project first instead of the last. Or, if you're like me, tackle the easiest project first and then go to the last one. Because I had the opposite. I always tackled the hardest project, the hardest part first, and then I never had any energy for the easiest part.
Yeah, so why not do some of the easy ones, then the hard one, then some more easy ones?
Hmm.
or balance it out. But the point is just not doing the same thing all the time. Challenge yourself. That keeps you fresh, that keeps you on it, and became, you won't get put out to pasture for sure. It's not being time, and it's not easy to do. You have to do it for yourself. Like, our lifestyles aren't going to do it for us. Things are too fast, and the time just gets sucked away with daily activities and work and everything else. You actually have to make time to do this kind of stuff to stay fresh. But it's time that you give to yourself, and it's the most important time. It's the time that you give to yourself for self-evaluation and self-improvement is the best time. You like they say, you can't take care of the rest of things if you're not taking care of yourself. You got to prioritize yourself. Create a sense of destiny. Cultivating purpose. We don't do this enough in our society. We really don't.
No.
Okay. Because this is where they say ambition and you got a big head and you think too much of yourself comes in. Like, this is where society pushes back on you, and puts a label on you if you actually do this kind of stuff. In the book, they use a perfect example, Joan of Arc. Okay. Joan of Arc was unrelenting in believing that she was destined to defend France and to bring it into a new world. She spoke to God. She spoke to angels. Everybody reinforced this order. She was unwavering as a child. She talked with clear conviction of it. She never wavered from it at all. She created her destiny. She said, this is going to happen. This is what I was born to do. This is what's going to happen. As fantastical as that story is, because it is. She is a true figure in history. It's not a Bible story that doesn't exist.
Yep,
she was that 14-year-old that walked on to an army field and declared this to a soldier.
Mm-hmm.
And then years later was the soldier leading the army. Okay. She spoke the words into reality with conviction and belief, so to speak. Now, that's not going to say that everything you mantra or say is going to come true. But having a clear picture of your destiny or your goal makes it 1,000 times more possible to happen. I truly believe that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, you want to read?
Sure. The definition. Frame your journey as inevitable to fuel perseverance. Believe you're meant to do something significant. This internal myth becomes your fuel.
Mm-hmm.
Example, Kobe Bryant adopted the Mamba mentality, visualizing NBA championships during late-night gym sessions. After tearing his Achilles in 2013, he declared, "I will not retire," and returned to score 60 points in his final game, 2016, treating his career as a predestined legacy.
Yep. Okay, so how do we do that, right? Oh, wait, good. I'm on the wrong tab, sorry. Okay. You want to read this part and I'll do the steps?
Sure. Craft a personal narrative of inevitability. Brian visualized championships during 4 a.m. workouts. Scripting his path as destiny. Similarly, an entrepreneur might journal future achievements as already accomplished. E.g., in 2026, my app revolutionized healthcare.
Mm-hmm. Or something as simple as, my YouTube channel will have 15,000 subscribers by the end of December.
Or the middle of the year.
Stop it. But you know what I mean? Like, yeah, something like that. Not that I think that it's going to happen, but like something like that. Small goals. It's big or small. Don't have to be a huge thing. Could be something
exactly.
small. Action steps. Write a future autobiography detailing your legacy as if it's already happened. this is
Mm-hmm.
also as good as write the plan down. Like, write how you're going to get there. Write the path. Tell the story. Tell yourself the story or how you're going to do it. Yeah. Well, whatever your goal is,
Exactly.
whether it be improving your grandmother's banana bread recipe to be the best banana bread the family has ever eaten, or
Mm-hmm.
starting a Fortune 500 company. I don't know, anything, you know, or making, having a rap album out, or just accomplishing the process. Just visualize it, put it out there, have some fun with it. Use
Exactly.
visualization. Spend 10 minutes daily imagining obstacles as necessary steps towards your destiny. This is actually quite beneficial when you are working towards a goal, because if you imagine the obstacle and what could happen, you are actually going to then start working on a plan, whether you realize it or not, to deal with it and be more
Mm-hmm.
prepared when it happens, and be able to move forward quicker, analyzing it, checking it out and everything. Just visualize what are the things in your way, and start working on plans to get rid of them. And
Exactly.
adopt ritualistic affirmations. I don't care how much people make fun of this shit. This works. This actually works. They make fun of people who put the stickies on their mirrors and say all this stuff. There's always a character in a movie somewhere or a book where they're taking it all. But you know what? It works. If you keep telling yourself so, it's so. You get to believe it, then you make it happen. Self
Mm-hmm.
affirmation to yourself on your strengths, on positivities, or even on the things you have to change, like I will be a faster reader, okay? Or I will improve my handwriting, or I will decrease the typos I put out on YouTube in the chats on a regular basis. I
Are
have
we
to tell
talking
myself.
about me here?
No, we're talking. I thought we were talking about me, but okay. I'm not alone. See, we resonate with the world here. But adopt these ritualistic affirmations. The setback is proof I'm on the right path. Tell yourself, if I fail, I get up. If I fail, at least it means I tried. I was out there. I did it. Just keep moving yourself forward, and don't be afraid to pat yourself on the back.
And don't be
Seriously,
afraid to fail.
because
As I said at the start of, I think I said it. Be be happy about your just as happy about your failures as your successes, if not more. Don't
yeah,
worry about failure. No one is perfect. There is no
failure.
one. And okay, so the just to put it into a little bit better perspective, there is absolutely people who manage to fail their way to success.
Well, here's the truth. Failure is a result of action, and action is power. Action is control of your destiny. So
Mhm.
failure is only one of the results. It's success or failure, right? So as long as you're failing, you're moving forward. You're
Mhm.
in the game. You are on the path to whatever it is you want to accomplish. So yeah,
And and the thing to remember is as long as you're still alive, if it hasn't happened, it it's not that it won't happen or that it's not that it definitely won't happen, it's that it hasn't happened yet.
it. What is that people say all the time? It's never too late. As long
Nope,
as there's
it's
time,
never too
there's
late.
opportunity. As long as there's time, there's chance. As long as there's time, there's
Mhm.
opportunity. Uh, yep. So this one, this one is the epitome of like believe in yourself. That is taking the time and investment um to put yourself first in your beliefs above everything else. And that it's a little hard for a lot of people to do. That I have to just say straight out. But the best example of this one is 50 Cent himself. It's what they're going to use in the book, because nobody was going to believe in him the way he believed in him. Nobody had that picture in his head of the success of driving around in expensive cars and being the top of a big business, or having business meetings in really fancy suits and going to the best restaurants. Nobody else had that vision in their head of doing it except for him. And he had to motivate himself, and he had to tell himself he deserved it and he could get it, and he was going to get it, okay, and move himself forward. Who coming from where he did would say that that was possible for him, except for himself? That lesson is know your convictions, know what you want. Don't let anybody else tell you anything about it or take it away from you. Or you've got to be your own best advocate. You've got to invest in yourself, or nobody else is going to want to. Because it is true. If you don't think you can do it, who else is going to? You're looking for some savior to come around and pick you up by your bootstraps and tell you you're going to do it. And I can tell you that there is somebody out there and they will try, and you're not going to believe them because you don't believe in yourself. So even if you get all the help in the world from all the outside resources, if you don't believe in you, you're not going to be able to take advantage of those opportunities. You're not going to be able to recognize the golden spear that's coming your way. You're not going to see it. You're not going to believe you're worthy of it. You've got to be your best advocate. You have to do it yourself first. I'm going to spray my throat. I'm going to let you read.
So, example. J.K. Rowling wrote Harry Potter on welfare, facing 12 publisher rejections. She insisted on keeping the series' dark themes intact, rejecting editorial pressure to tone down the Philosopher's Stone. Her self-belief turned cafe manuscript into a $25 billion franchise, reclaiming narrative controlled by releasing books as definitive editions. And once again, she had the foundation for it.
She was an author, right?
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing.
Yeah.
But that's why she had enough conviction in her skills as an author and what she believed this project was, that she wasn't letting them alter it. She was willing to wait and deal with failure and rejection to wait for the project to stay the same the way it was, to sell it the way it was, because that's she believed in that, what she did. But she had the conviction, you're right, the foundation of being able to write. She wrote. Okay. Not everybody can do that, but that's not the point of the example. The example is the conviction she had in her end product, in what she had done, in what she had created. The unwavering self-investment in that I spent all this time creating this the way it is, and you don't know any better than me to change it. It's great the way it is. You can't change it. I believe in this. I believe in what I did. I believe in this, and it's staying as it is. As hard as that was, because she was very poor and she turned down money. All she had to do was change it and it would have sold, but she wouldn't do it. And then with her conviction and belief in herself, she turned what could have been $150,000 down payment or book sale into
be honest here, it wouldn't have been anything. It wouldn't have been anywhere near 150,000. She probably would have only gotten 50 at best.
I don't know. 150 seems to be the standard right now. But anyway, $25 billion franchise is where it is right now. Because she believed it was going to be something. It turned into not only what she believed as a standalone series of books that were not altered the way she wrote them, into an actual franchise of just blew up everywhere.
And it is like everyone knows about it. It is a household name. Harry Potter is straight up household name. If that's not success, I don't know what is.
Exactly. Every age group read this too. It wasn't just it went through multiple genres, multiple age groups. It's a fantastic example. But betting on yourself requires separating instinct from noise. You've got to have that foundation in yourself of what you think is true. Rowling ignored editors urging her to tone it down, trusting her vision. To replicate this, conduct a validation audit. Note how often you seek approval versus acting on conviction. It's like a self-doubt test, you know? And how often do you look for someone else to tell you it's okay instead of knowing it's okay? The way,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that is hard to do. I struggle with this one. I feel naked right now. Maybe I should just let you do the action steps while I go get a towel or something. Yeah, because
So the
this.
action steps are: create a noise filter, list trusted advisors, people, and ignore all other critiques. This doesn't mean to and this here doesn't mean to completely only listen to yes men, because that is probably worse than listening to everyone. Listening to only the people that say, yeah, that's a great idea, yeah, that's a great idea, is terrible. It's how we get some of the worst apology videos on YouTube.
Echo chambers, yes.
And echo chambers and Hassan and
Nobody wants to be a Hassan
yeah.
Abi. No, don't do it. Don't be a Hassan Abi. Yes, no.
But it means to take into account what people are saying and figure out what critiques are worth your effort and worth your energy and actually working on. What when is someone just giving you platitudes? When is someone just telling you what you want to hear? When is someone actually telling you that, this is good, this isn't just flattery, this is good?
No, rabbits, it's not saying less than 3 critiques. It's saying trusted advisors. It says you need to, in dealing with the noise that is out there, the pros and cons of any project, you should already have in mind several people that you know are going to be completely honest about it, that you trust, that have enough knowledge of the situation in yourself to give you honest feedback. It's not saying don't listen to everything that's out there, because of course you got to take feedback and everything. But it comes to when you're actually dealing with your self-worth, you need a noise filter. Life is full of people telling you things that are not true about yourself. It's about building up the concentrations of what you actually know yourself to be so that you can support yourself. There are in everybody's life several people that do this for you, or there should be. And if they're not, find them. You don't want to listen to the masses that you're lazy, you know. You want to listen to a truth or an honest reflection of it for something that you can deal with. Do you know what I mean? Okay. In order to do a validation audit, you need trusted voices, not all the voices. This is about your opinion of yourself. This is about believing in yourself this step. This is about supporting yourself, not an opinion about how to do something like make banana bread, you know. It's about, is this me? Is this resonate with me? You know, those trusted advisors are the worst, or the best. It doesn't mean don't take other people's opinions. Of course, if somebody out there is saying you're lazy, you want to look at it. Of course, you want to hear the critics and stuff. You're trying to when actually evaluating yourself, you've got to deal with a lifelong of all of this being said, all the way from when you were a baby. And it's like, look how fast she crawls. Man, she's fast, you know, or like, woo, she really loves blueberries. Maybe like, you know, by the time you're 5, you can't handle them, but like everybody's always telling you like them, so you eat them all the time. You know, all of this stuff that's there, you got to get rid of all of that. You have to start like looking at what is actually true for yourself. And that's what it means by those trusted advisors. You can't have a million people telling you who you are
No,
and it
and
and it be
the
who you are. Yeah.
less than or equal to 3 people is just it's
It's a
obviously a it's
suggestion.
it's obviously a suggestion. Like, come on. What are we talking about?
Yes. And I
We're
just
not we're not being prescriptive here.
exactly. We are not absolutely being perspective at all. It's like it when it comes to you, you're finding what you're going to invest in for yourself and what you believe about yourself. You can't take all the criticisms to heart. They're going to matter too much. If you bring that all in, that's what you're going to end up being. Is that what you want? No, no. You need critics to help set you right. You need those honest people that are going to say, you know what, you know you're really acting not in your best, not in your
Mm,
best right now. You're really acting not in your um serving yourself very well right now by this, that, or the other thing. Or you're really like that's not who you really are, and why are you representing yourself that way? These
mm,
kind of advisors, people they have to actually know
yeah.
you.
Or like
They
like
actually know
telling yeah,
you or be an expert in what it is you're approaching.
yeah,
I'll say that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The next one is practice micro beats. Make small, self-trusting decisions daily, e.g., pitching an unconventional idea at work. Or, I mean, you could take it even smaller. Doing, deciding to do uh, a small chore that you've been ignoring for ages. Um, e- ex- ex- like yeah, do a small chore, like for instance, if you haven't cleaned up something and you've been putting it off for ages, then just tell yourself that you're going to do it. Small successes, that's the goal. Small successes, they all build up eventually.
Exactly. Listen, and if you're gonna be pedantic about an action step, don't take the step. I We realize it says list trusted advisors less than 3. That means people that know you or are experts in what it is you're addressing for yourself, and ignore all other critics about it. Silencing the voices of negativity that are telling you who you are. Okay, this is about self-awareness. This is not about like, is my project good, or is my writing good, would you read this for me? You're expanding it to a larger concept than it is, and you need to drill it back to what we're actually saying here. This is about, let me go back a slide because I don't want anybody to have the wrong idea here. And it's about betting on yourself, being your own self advocate. How the hell are you going to be your own self advocate if you're listening to the world? That's what it means, simply. If you want to get all pedantic about the fact that it says next in 3 and silence all the critics, it technically only means you need to trust yourself in what you really want to do before you listen to anything else out there. You need to know yourself a little bit of where you're coming from. Then you can listen to the voices and adjust anything accordingly if you believe there are fair points and if you believe it is something that benefits you moving forward. Does that
And I
make it a
think
little more clear?
and I
Because I
think
think I think people were getting the wrong idea here. Like,
no, you know what? I actually have a little bit more faith. I think people understand that it was just a suggestion. I
well,
don't
if they did,
necessarily.
then they'll start being goddamn pedantic about it.
Mm,
And, yeah, it's just like, you can't like it's just a technique. You
mhm,
got to use some techniques to filter out the noise so that you can understand yourself. If that's what it means, that's all that it means, is that you can't take everybody's opinion about something into consideration if you don't know what your opinion about it is.
mhm,
Does is that make more
yeah,
sense?
yeah.
You know,
No,
uh,
I think that's fair. Yeah. Um, but anyway, let's go on to the last little bit. Embrace productive failure. Launch a minimum viable product, MVP, knowing it might flop. Treating feedback as data, not verdicts. As I was saying before, enjoy your failures. Like, relish in them just as much as you relish in your success. That
Right.
is
It's the
that
process.
is how you will succeed.
If you wait till you feel
Learn
something is
from them.
perfect, yeah. If you wait till
Mm.
you feel something is perfect before you put it out there, you either one, you're never going to put it out there, or or you're not going to get the feedback that you need to make it even better. You know what I mean? Like you uh, you see this all the time in people that like are writing and things like that. There's a progression in authors. How often does somebody do their first book? It's like a bestseller, right? Um, does it prevent them from writing and putting the books out? No. Um, Musicians, when you're just starting out, you got to put stuff out there. It can fail or not. Well, you can't wait until you feel it's perfect. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
like what everybody's gonna want. You got to get it out there so you get the feedback, right? It's
Yep.
the process of just putting it out. So the process of putting it out there, A to Z, is important because you're gonna learn just from that. You know,
Exactly. And that
it's
doesn't
the
mean that you have to like try and put it out to every single person out there. It could just be to a small group of friends at the beginning.
mm-hmm.
Get feedback.
Yep, exactly. Okay,
And
so
then
boy,
reversal
this
of,
one's, yeah. You read that part
mm,
and then I'll read the thing.
reversal of perspective. We are free when our acts proceed from our entire personality, when they express it, when they exhibit that indefinable resemblance to it, which we find occasionally between the artist and his work. I think I misread that.
Hmm?
Oh, I get it now.
Do you want to read it again? Do you get it now?
We are free when our acts proceed from our entire personality, when they express it, when they exhibit an indefinable resemblance to it, which we find occasionally between the artist and his work.
Right.
Yep. It took too long to figure out.
So in the reversal of perspective, and this comes directly from the book, most of us, the words ego and egotism express something negative. Egotistical people have an oversized opinion of themselves. Instead of considering what is important for society, a group, or family, they think first and foremost of themselves and act upon this. Their vision is narrowed to the point of seeing everything in reference to their needs and desires. But there is another way to look at it. We all have an ego, a sense of who we are. And this ego or self relationship is either strong or weak. People with a weak ego do not have a secure sense of their worth or potential. They pay extra attention to the opinions of others. They might perceive anything as a personal attack or affront. They need constant attention and validation from others. To compensate for and disguise this fragility, they will often assume an arrogant or aggressive front. This needy, dependent, self obsessed variety of ego is what we find irritating and distasteful. A strong ego, however, is completely different. People who have a solid sense of their own value and who feel secure about themselves have the capacity to look at the world with greater objectivity. They can be more considerate and thoughtful because they can get outside of themselves. People with a strong ego set up boundaries. Their sense of pride will not allow them to accept manipulative or hurtful behavior. We generally like to be around these types. Their confidence and strength is contagious. To have such a strong ego should be an ideal for all of us. So many people who attain the heights of power in this culture, celebrities for instance, have to make a show of false humility and modesty, as they got as far as they did by accident and not by ego or ambition. They want to act as if they are no different from anyone else and are almost embarrassed by their power and success. These are all signs of a weak ego. As an egoist of the strong variety, you have to trumpet your individuality and take great pride in your accomplishments. If others cannot accept that or judge you as arrogant, that's their problem, not yours. And I know that that sounds harsh, but it's actually not. We all like being around people who know themselves. Like, right? We all have people in our lives that we look up to and admire, and we say, I wish I could be more like that. You know,
Yeah.
I wish.
And,
And they are people that have good self worth and strong egos.
yeah. I mean, yeah, like most of the people that we look up to generally have pretty big egos when you think about it. Like,
Hmm.
uh, and we don't fault them for it. Uh,
Yep.
we celebrate the result of it. So it's perfectly fine. Like having an ego is fine. Being like egotistical to the point
Hmm.
where it's toxic, that's where it gets bad.
Yep.
Um it's it's really, yeah, a matter of perspective. Making sure that yes, you have an ego. Make sure you have an ego. That's going to get you places.
My a
But make
healthy.
sure
Phew.
but make sure that it's not going to warp or alienate you.
Mm. But that's all about using this part of the book to being
Mm,
your, you know, challenging your self limits, but understanding yourself, you know, being your own advocate for yourself. That's having a strong ego, knowing yourself very well. Well, society, like you said, it does push back on it if you are one who seems to be a go-getter or have strong ambition or a healthy knowledge of yourself and a healthy ego. um
mhm.
think of it this way. Eh, mm, it's hard for me not to relate it in personal terms as much as I'm trying to keep this in an overall perspective of
I I
for the
really
majority.
I
It
understand how hard it is
Yeah.
to to try and figure out, how to talk about an ego when you don't have one like me.
Oh, yeah, right, Mr. Humble. Yeah, we're gonna go with that one. No, we're not. It's like, here's the thing. No. Yeah, okay. Um Having healthy boundaries and all are, it did mention that. And I actually think that's one of the strong signs of a healthy ego. Oh, the people that are pushing on you to try to say who you are or what you did or what you should accept, they're all doing it for their own agendas. Like, they the ones that are telling you like you're you're to this or you're to that, they're doing it for their own agendas to feel better. they,
Mhm.
they're doing it from a place of weakness, to be honest. Okay. And having those boundaries against that kind of manipulation and that kind of, like, listen, the one thing I know for sure in my life is that if I know something about I do try to do a lot of self reflection, and I think I know myself pretty well. I know my weaknesses and my strengths. I know where I failed and where I succeed. I'm constantly looking at it and constantly trying to do better. No human is perfect. I'm not perfect. I've got plenty of shit to work on. I've got triggers. I've got this, like we all do. But what I also have are boundaries. Ain't nobody gonna come in here and make their problem mine. Okay? Unless I want it that way. Ain't nobody here going to say that I am something that I don't think I am unless I agree to it. Okay? I got some healthy boundaries on how I'll be manipulated and how I'll be used for other people's agendas. And people don't like that. People don't like people that set up boundaries because they can't manipulate you or use you at will. That's a fact of life. That's a fact of life out here on YouTube every goddamn day. Sorry, not sorry. So if you want to be the most popular person in the world, that's fine. Have that mission, go out there. I can guarantee you're going to get tossed around like a ping pong ball. And when you go to sleep at night, you're going to get hurt a little bit. You're going to not feel so good sometimes. Boundaries are necessary. Boundaries are healthy. And anybody that tells you that they're not is just trying to work on your boundaries because there's something they want from you. And that's a fact.
Yep.
It's because they can't get you to do what you want, do what they want, or you're not giving them what they want, or you're not like, who are they to tell you how you should act and how you should be or who you are? Seriously, the only one who knows all of that is you. And that's what this chapter was about. And that's why it was so damn personal. It really, really got under my skin a bit. And I'll be honest, I was on edge all stream because of it. Because I really felt like I was sitting out here naked.
Yeah. It is. It's another chapter that is very confronting.
Mm-hmm.
And challenging.
Yep.
But I think there's a lot to learn from it. A lot. The thing that I take away from it is, well, mainly just holding yourself accountable for stuff.
Exactly.
I mean, I say it a lot because throughout this book, the constant theme is holding yourself accountable. And I do like how it talks about making sure you believe in yourself, making sure that you don't just say you want to do something, you visualize it, you almost live what you're planning on doing.
Yep.
And making sure that, like, when you go and do something, do it. Do it. Get as much feedback as you can from it.
It was definitely a challenging chapter. Well, probably, I don't know, last one was pretty rough too. And I don't want to say it was like the most challenging because that's like throwing it out there for the next one to really put me in a tailspin. So I'll just reserve judgment on it. We've got one more chapter to go.
The last chapter is definitely the one that's probably going to be the hardest.
Well, yeah, but I'm proud of us because we got this far. Because with doing all of this, there comes a lot of self-evaluation as you go. And it's been very, very interesting. And for those of you that are following along, there's a PDF in the description of the video for every time. If you want to review it and all. Some of the slides come right from the book. Some of them are actually reformulations of the stuff that's in there, like the ones with the examples, and geez, after all of that, I doubt I'm going to put any steps in anymore like that. I feel harangued a little bit, and I will admit, like it's rough because nobody wants to be misinterpreted, and I don't want to put things out there that people find offensive in a way, because the whole idea of this book is to not actually be offensive. It's to try to take something that many people were offended by. Would you agree, Rekkr? Just the title of the 50th Law book got the whole series put in lockdown by YouTube immediately. They had a preconceived notion on what it was going to be. They were trying to say what we were saying without actually listening to any of it. And we fought against that. I sent multiple emails against it because we're trying to take the very valuable lesson. It's it's a hard story, and nobody's saying that you have to do it the way 50 Cent did. But Robert
Yeah,
Greene was right to recognize a process there that was undeniable that anyone can do.
exactly.
And we're just trying to put
We're
a
putting our
different,
own little spin on it.
our spin on it
Ultimately,
for
it is.
2025, for what's going on in the world today, and how most of us, when you brought it to me, what was the first thing we discussed? An environment in 2025 where people feel they're losing their power and control over their lives,
Mm-hmm.
especially here in America with the political situation, the economy all over the world. Things were spinning out of control. What does the average human do in a situation like that, where you feel there's nothing you can do about what's going on the outer world? You look inside and you work on yourself to prepare for whatever comes your way. And that was what I was thinking, well, when you brought it to me, that would be
Mm,
valuable, that people could get their power back, to
mm,
realize your own power is not what's going on in the world. It's you. And you get your power back, and then you can deal with these things in a better, more calm, pragmatic, and productive way, you know? Because
exactly.
I felt like the whole, just everybody as humans were getting bounced around like ping pong balls
Oh,
anymore,
absolutely.
with the onslaught of everything that's been happening.
Mm-hmm.
Mind you,
And
also because of America, but still,
yeah.
yes. Yeah, I get it. In Canada, but it's more like, even in New Zealand, there was stuff going on. There's
Mm-hmm.
stuff going on everywhere, but it just seems that everything seems to be going faster and more challenging for individuals. So it was a way for us to get back to basics and show everybody that you can feel more control of a situation in how you look at it,
Mm-hmm.
if you come from your own power base. But then when we realized that most of the people around us no longer had their power base, it was taken over by all of this anxiety and fear. Fear. The whole thing is about conquering the fear.
Yep.
Fear is a common thread throughout the book. It starts in the beginning, is that fear is immobilizing. Fear keeps us from doing anything. And conquering fear is immediate power.
Exactly. And and as I mean, read the book. Is also a good thing. Like, seriously, what we're just giving you our opinions on how we interpret this and how we think it would be a good way to actually interpret it, that isn't just
Mhm,
like lie, cheat, and steal, which is
mhm.
what a lot of people seem to think it is.
Yeah,
Um,
how to be a gangster 101. It's
mm,
not. It's not. It's a life
no,
story, and it's not one that fits everybody, but the steps, the lessons, and the
it's the deeper
process.
concepts.
Right. It's the deeper concept of the process that actually matters. Like
Mm,
like Couch, who actually used one of the concepts up there and actually put out an affirmation that I will actually should have 50 followers in Twitch by the end of June. Like, wouldn't that be lovely? Like, let's all just put that picture out there in the universe.
mhm,
That would be fun. Just um or or like Mipit says, that like looking into yourself is always confronting. We see things we don't like sometimes. Exactly. But then we can do something about it, you know,
mhm.
you know, and we can change what we don't like in about ourselves.
You know what? I
It
might
was
I might actually try and put this chapter into action today.
today.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. I might
How?
I might give it a go.
What do you mean?
We'll find out.
Oh, suspense. Tune in next week to find out what Rekkr did. Yes. Am I gonna like this? Like, what are you talking about here?
We'll find out.
I don't know. Okay. Now, okay, talk about getting nervous. Like, yeah. Anyway, we'll be back next week for chapter 10. Then just to let you know what is going on with the series, then there'll be a week break and we'll do a summation to final out the chapter, So we'd really like to hear from you. Like, leave us a comment on the back of the video, or if there's anything about the other chapters, or even this chapter, or even looking forward to the next. We do want the feedback. We're not closed off from it at all. So don't forget
exactly.
to, do the YouTubey things.
We like the criticism.
And thanks for hanging out as long as you did today. 2 hours and 45 minutes. Like, whoa, this is the longest one yet. Mostly my fault because I couldn't shut up.
We weren't even expecting this one to be that long.
Yeah, I didn't think I had anything to say about it, actually, but apparently I had too much. Well, all right, everybody. Thank you. Thank you again, Rekkr, for bringing us into this series, as painful as it is on certain chapters. It is an experience. I will say that.
Mm-hmm.
It is. It's definitely experience. So, any last words?
Read the book.
Yes. Read the book. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have a good one.
Thank you, everybody. See you.
Cheers.
See you
See
soon.
ya.